Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Pemko number 357 SP. This is what's called an Astragal, is indeed what it is. Astragals are, Astragal is a term that's used differently because there's different derivatives of what an Astragal really is. Astragals can be a piece of flat steel like this. They can be steel that's in a different type of shape that might look like the letter Z or the letter T or the letter H when they're laid on their end, I should say. They can also be weather stripping as well. You can have the term split astragal, and a split astragal just means that you'll have one on each door. An application of a split astragal might be, it's really, I don't know if it applies to hollow metal as much as it does just to gasketing. So if you had a pair of doors and you had surface mounted gasketing on either door, that would be an astragal. We'd call it a split astragal because you've got one on each door. And that could be bristle that come together, it could be magnets that lock together, or just vinyl bulb, which is not a great option. I don't know that split astragal applies to hollow metal. Generally, the application of the hollow metal door pair generally can be a single door as well, will determine the type of astragal deployment that you would use. So let's just start by some dimensions. The 357 is 2-inch wide. This is just maybe a 10 or a 12-inch sample piece. You can order this in the length that you need. Thickness of this, 0.113, so almost 1/8 of an inch. The material is certainly not light, being steel. This is what would be galvannealed. This is just a coating that goes over the steel. There are two primary different ways that steel is galvanized. This is one of the two ways, and is a extremely durable coating over the steel-based material. It will still rust. If you were to scratch that and expose the raw steel beneath, you'll have oxidation there most definitely. In terms of the weight, this material weighs 0.06 pound per inch, so this 12-inch piece is about 3/4 pound. This can come in 3 variations, and all those variations have everything to do with how you're going to attach them. ND would be for no drill. You're going to weld this to the door. It can also come with typical what they show as panhead fasteners, and then you can also order with through bolts or sex bolts as well. So let's talk about how those mounting types and the different deployment types of astragals will help you determine which you need and whether or not this astragal, which is called a flat astragal, is the one that would be appropriate for you. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. So depending on the application, astragals can be welded, and in fact, I think that you're going to find welding to be a method that the factory may not do by default, but might be the method that the owner wants it to be done by default. What's the good sense in having screws on the outside of an astragal when you can simply remove them and potentially get to the latching device on the door and getting the door open? So welding it is easy, simple and straightforward. If I was going to do it, it would be a plug weld for sure. I would drill a hole down through the astragal and the door, and I would fill all that with weld, is how I would go about doing it. I suppose that you could mechanically fasten it. You could use a security screw, I suppose. You could also put those screws in there and then smear out the Phillips head. That makes maintenance an issue down the road, as does welding. You're not going to remove that easily without drilling out the welds. Through bolts, that's probably going to be something that you'll want to consider if you're not going to weld it to the door. A through bolt is going to be just it'll kind of look like a carriage bolt head on the outside, and that'll run right through the door. And the nice thing about the sex bolts, or what they call through bolt, is that when you tighten it down, it won't crush the door down because of the design of the female component in a sex bolt. It won't allow you to crush the door down. So this is just a sample piece, and this is called a flat astragal, and this might be appropriate for your application. The application where it would be appropriate would be, has everything to do with, all astragals in fact have everything to do with how the door swings. So first of all, let's talk about single doors. If it was a single door, you can put an astragal on a single door. You would never use a flat astragal, assuming that you're doing hollow metal. Hollow metal doors always have an inset in the frame. It's slight, so 1/16 of an inch or so. But this would never allow you to get the door pushed closed because the door goes past the face of the frame, and this would not work unless you padded that off, which you wouldn't want to do. You'd want to use an offset astragal, an astragal that's got a little giddy up in it. I'll show that to you. So in single doors, we do sell offset astragal. It's a flat astragal that basically has a little bend to it. Gives a little relief here. Those are great because basically they're continuous latch guards is what they are. You're closing off that entire seam between the door and the jamb on the entire latch side. If you have an application where vandalism, attempt at burglary, break-in, robberies, all that sort of stuff is actual and real and happens every weekend. A very heavy gauge piece of offset steel welded or through bolted to the face of that door goes a long way to helping solve it. At that point, you probably already have greater thickness, greater gauge of doors and frames, 16 gauge doors, 14 gauge doors. We've provided material to high crime urban areas, and those doors and frames have been all but, bullet resistant type doors. And that's one nice thing about steel versus other door types. Not only is steel super recyclable, but pound for pound, literally, it's less expensive than everything else. And when you go with a thicker gauge steel and then throw galvanizing at it, and the fact that they can make any size, factories can make any size of the door and frame that you need, I really don't see a need to go to anything but hollow metal doors. It's the most durable, and it's economically, it historically has been the least expensive of all options, most specifically when compared to aluminum. So let's talk now about the different astragal types and applications. We're going to switch to a different camera view so I can literally draw that out for you. So the conversation is worth diving into if you need to see different applications of where you would use astragals. We've covered single doors, and I'll show you an offset astragal, and then we'll get into double doors. Let's do that now. If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it. Okay, let's take a look at these different astragal types that I had mentioned. So different astragals are going to look like flat astragal. You're also going to have, and depending on the manufacturer, not every manufacturer makes the same astragals, but you can have an astragal that's going to look like we would call that an H astragal. The purpose of the H astragal is that it's going to end up looking like this. Okay, in the sense of where the name comes from. So it looks like that. The purpose of, well, let's back up. The flat astragal, pair of doors. Let's say that you have a left-hand reverse active. You're going to put that there, you'll fasten it here, and that door swings this way. That's an outswing application, left-hand reverse active. Okay. If it's a right-hand reverse active, you'll attach it here. But if it's a right-hand door or a left-hand door, you're going to want the astragal over on this side. Let's say that it is a right-hand active. Okay. You're going to attach that right here. The point being is you want to guard from the exterior side access to get in that seam between the two doors. So that's where that's how a flat astragal is going to be used. An H astragal is the same application, except what you get into with an H astragal is the concept that the Astragal itself is prepped for the hardware, like the strike plate, like the flush bolts, if there are any. So back in the old days, what we would do is, because you're dealing with stock hollow metal doors, generally, you're going to deal with a door that's 35 3/4. 35 3/4. Okay, you put those two together, and you're going to have something that's 71 1/2. In a 6/0 opening, that is way too much margin. You'll have 1/8 of an inch on the one side, 1/8 of an inch on the other side. That leaves a 1/4 inch between the two doors. An H Astragal is great because it picks up all that space. It grabs that additional, it fills that extra room that you need. The problem with the flat Astragal is that if you're dealing with stock doors, that gap between the doors is going to be too heavy. So an H Astragal was great because it would be prepped. It would look like this. It would have the strike prep. It would have your flush bolt preps. And then what you would do is you would use an 86 edge door on the inactive. The strike would be able to reside within the mortise pocket, and then you would just simply, cut out or hog out areas at the top and bottom of the door for the flush bolt body to go into, and then prep the top and bottom of the door for the flush bolts. So the H Astragal was also used from a perspective of the distributor when they are working with stock components, realizing that shop labor is going to be necessary to be done, but attempting to keep it to a minimum is the bottom line. Okay. Okay, so H Astragal. So far we've got a flat and we got an H. Let's talk about that offset that we said earlier. I probably should have started with that. So the offset looks like the flat, except that it has that little giddy up there. That's going to be called an offset Astragal. It only means that. So the intent of the offset Astragal is, well, in a single opening. Obviously this is going to be left-hand reverse, or just left-hand reverse. Because in typical hollow metal, it's inset here. It's a very slight amount. There is a dimension here that's, about a 1/16 of an inch. You have to have that Astragal come and give you that little giddy up there. Otherwise, you can see how you'll never get the door closed because of that condition there. So offset is used. If you have a pair of doors, you wouldn't use the offset. You could, but you wouldn't. If you have a pair of doors, you would use the flat Astragal, if that's what you were doing. Unless you were using that H Astragal, and here's what you were doing. Left-hand reverse active. Okay, that H is going to come here. Your offset is going to come here. Attached here, attached here. That's how that works. That's where you'd use an offset in a pair when you had something like an H. Nobody really makes an H that I know of. The H was what was always from the Kewanee Corporation. They were in Kewanee, Illinois. Long out of business now. Not quite 20 years, but we'll be there before we know it. So, flat H offset. What's the next Astragal to talk about? That would be a Z Astragal. That's a Z Astragal. It's the same concept as the H. It just doesn't have this. Okay? Same concept. You're still going to need an offset. If your Z is attached here. Okay. One nice thing about the Z and the H is that they do act as a stop here, and they do act as security. You know, you're not getting anything through there. If you were to peel that flat astragal off, or pardon me, that offset astragal, you still have this blocking your way, because what happens is in that, between that pair of doors, people will insert, it's very, very easy. Let's say that you have the one that I hear about. Okay, you've got a pair of, this is obviously an unequal pair. Let's imagine that those are the same size. Someone will fish a piece of coat hook in there, and they'll get it around that and pull on it and pull the device open. So closing this off is job one of the astragal. What manufacturers will tell you is that astragals are not security devices. They're not. They're meant to close off the gap between two doors. It just turns out that closing off the gap between two doors is generally because it's a security issue. So when you deploy astragals, you have to think about A, closing off that gap between the two doors, however you're going to do that, with bristle, however you're doing it, but also acting as a security device. Okay, so all of that comes together conspires to solve the problem. Let's switch to the screen view now, and let's take a closer look at the supporting information. If you've made it this far into this video, you must be determined to see it through to the end, and we appreciate your hanging in there with us and watching this entire video. It means a lot. It takes a lot of work to create these videos, in the sense that you know, it's time taken away from doing other things. However, the advantage for me personally of creating these videos is the fact that it does allow myself to either learn about something new, to reacquaint myself with something, or to reinforce what I believe that I already know. Any comments that you might leave down below would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Alright, here's the item that we are, or the items that we're looking at. We have it listed here just in different lengths with through bolts, and then down at the bottom, the ND version, which is no drilling. If it was me, I would probably always want them drilled if I was going to weld it, because I would plug weld right through the hole that was already existing. That would be what I would choose to do. Let's take a look at some images that we have. Packaging. White coat Galvannealed. I don't know what gauge this is. I'd have to look up what 0.104 equals. The description may say. Showing you what that looks like. An end view. A little bit of a close-up. That's all that there really is to this. Now, let's click on really any of these. Not much in the extended description here. Standard fastener is a 10x1 truss head. Sheet metal screw, I had said probably pan head earlier. Optional quarter 20 machine screws and through bolts. Can be ordered separately at an additional cost. It's fire rated. This can be used on a pair of fire doors. It does not bear a UL label, but the manufacturer's published documentation indicates that it is listed, which means it's been tested. Cut sheet is here. Not a whole lot to see here other than verification of the dimensions. A little light on 1/8 of an inch, but not noticeably so. Okay. Now, we had talked about I had used the term split astragal, and split astragal is actually an industry term. Now, we do have a link below this video as seen here, and that's going to allow us to click on that, then pull up the manufacturer's page on our site where you will be able to review not only all of the Pemko items that we sell by means of this horizontal navigation, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. Let's go ahead and fire that up. And once that catalog's pulled up, we can easily do a find function for 357 on our keyboard, and we'll find all of the instances where 357 comes up. Sooner or later, we'll find the 357. Okay, so what we're seeing here is variants of the 357. Here we go. 357 and the 357 ND. Again, no drill. The underscore is going to be the finish. Powder coated, oil rubbed bronze, black powder coated, clear. Yeah, it's got to be silver painted would be my guess. This is steel, so dark bronze powder coated, some sort of prime coat, galvanized would be my guess is what this means. Galvanized under black suede powder coat, galvanized under white suede powder coat, and then stainless steel. So you can do the 357 drilled or not drilled. You can do it with the S88 as well, but I think this is wrong. This is shown wrong is my guess. Well, what you could be, what I'm saying is I would expect to see that S88. Here's your Astragal. I would expect to see that S88 here. You know, then you'll have your door here. And then this, when it comes, if that active door is open, basically what it would look like would then be your S88 kind of smushed down because you've got your inactive door and your active door. That would be my guess. That's how I would like to see it. But putting it in here, sure, makes sense. Put it in both places, said the gasketing salesman. Okay, so it's nice to be able to see that all there. This catalog is full of weather stripping solutions from Pemko, 310 pages worth of them. Let's wrap up this video on camera. Regarding the links to ads that you might see in this video, we do apologize for any interruption to a smooth viewing experience. And hopefully the ads that are being presented to you are related to the base product. And if there is something, feel free to click on those and perhaps consider taking a look at what that other advertiser is promoting. Let's get back to the video. All right, before we wrap this up, I did want to talk about split astragals. In the Pemko catalog, great. This is it. This is exactly a split astragal. Basically what you have is a 351 in the color of choice in a silicone insert. You've got a vinyl insert on the, let's say, the active or the inactive. Then you've got this other style. This is what a split astragal is. This is a split astragal. Astragal and meeting style gasketing split astragals, page 168. Let's go there. Split astragals. This is exactly what split astragals are. It's when you take an astragal, you buy two of them, and you put one on each door, and that's how that's solved. Yeah, that's literally how that's done. I also wanted to see if it's in the SDI glossary. SDI steeldoor.org. This new glossary. Let's see if it's in there. I like the Astragal. A component or combination of components applied to a single door, one or both doors of a pair at their meeting styles to cover the door clearance, the bottom edge of a flush transom panel. Sure, you could do that. I didn't think of that. You have a, let's say, a hollow metal door, but above here is a transom panel. And if we were to look at that cross section, you've got that door. That'd be a great application for maybe an H astragal. The bottom of a top leaf of a Dutch door. Same conversation. If you have got a fire-rated Dutch door, you're going to have an astragal there most likely. The Astragal closes the clearance gap for the purpose of ensuring privacy, minimizing the passage of light, retard the passage of air, sound, smoke, or flame, and provides additional security, provided by hollow metal manufacturers or the hardware supplier. Let's see if there's a term for split, or a definition for split. Split frame. Yeah, not split Astragal. Okay. So back to our catalog. The bottom line is you get an Astragal or gasketing. You buy 2 of them. You put 1 on each door. That's split. Order split Astragals, 2 pieces at the door height for a set of them. Yeah. What Pemko wants you to do if you want 2 of them, you can either order this 2 or you can order 1 of these, and that tells them that you want 2 pieces. Awesome. Now let's finish up this video on camera. Well, we sure did speak a lot about Astragals, and hopefully this, talking about this 357 put into context the greater Astragal conversation. If you have any questions on anything Pemko related or anything Assa Abloy related, Pemko is an Assa Abloy company. Her sister companies would be outfits that you may have heard of, like Medico and Sargent and Yale and Corbin Russwin and Rockwood and countless others to go along under the Assa Abloy umbrella, including the company Assa and the company Abloy as well. Any questions on this or any other Pemko product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you very much. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you. Thanks to our clients, Architectural Builder Supply is building an additional facility, and what follows is not only a look at the acreage that we're building the facility on, but also first the architectural renderings as they exist, or at least the architectural plans as they exist at this time. Thank you very much. Let's take a look. All right, let's take a look at the architecturals as they exist at this moment, or at least it wouldn't be proper to call these architecturals, but it would be proper to call them renderings in the sense of they're conceptual drawings, they're not renderings. So the entire space is going to look like this in terms of a site rendering. This will be a 22,000 square foot building, of which will have specific purpose areas. There'll be a workshop down here. This is a few thousand square feet that will be likely woodworking, metalworking, CNC, things of that nature. This will be an office area here, a private office area. This will be Architectural Builders Supply expanded storage area where we will be able to do fulfillment. The entire space in the center is going to be all of the volume, as I call it. Large components will be able to be stored and stocked there. Machinery that's too large to fit otherwise may be put out here. Specific facility rooms, and then some recreation over here. Let's take a look at that drone footage, and thank you very much for taking a look.